Very good afternoon to all. I welcome you all to the day 2 of Word Connect series. It's a webinar series. So it is the webinar series training program for all the essay competition participants as well as for all general people. So how to go about with the essays or how to write a paper. So we have two important sessions scheduled for today's session. First session being the formal one. So we have Professor Vayapuri Thangavelu sir with us. So he'll be talking to us about the challenges in architectural expression of a multicultural nation. The second session, so that will be handled by Professor Gajendran sir. So the topic is online apps for correction and review. So these are the two topics that we are going to cover for today's session. Over to you. The moderator is going to be the student, Kushi. So I hand over the session to the moderator.
Life is architecture, and architecture is the mirror of life. An incredibly good morning to the respected speaker, Sir Vayapuri Thangavelu, respected faculties, and all my dear fellow mates. Today, I, Kushi Suraj, will be the moderator for this session and the next session of Day 2 of the online training program conducted for students taking part in the essay writing competition 2020. A very warm welcome to all of you. The topic for today's session is about the challenges of architectural expression faced in a multicultural nation. Architecture intervenes, maps, and signifies. In doing so, it constructs identities. It helps to show how we know the world by mediating power, social relationships, and cultural values. Sir Vayapuri Thangavelu is a professor, the design chair of School of Architecture and Interior Design, SRM University, Katangalattur, is the principal architect of the firm Vayapuri Architects. His objective is to work for higher standards in architectural education and in the profession. He is a resource person for the Council of Architecture in New Delhi. He has an academic experience from 2006 till date. He's an experience in administration and project management and has been an integral part in commercial, residential, institutional design and execution. Sir Vayapuri Thangavelu has won a Lifetime Achievement Award in the field of architecture in the year 2017 by Indian Concrete Institute. Before I hand over the session to the Sir Vayapuri Thangavelu, I request all the participants to post their questions in the comment section. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Kushi, for that wonderful introduction. As you all know, today's topic is a subtopic. No, the main topic is to train you for the essay competition called by the Council of Architecture, architecture's role in nation building. And today's session is the challenges India is going to face, since India is a multicultural nation. We are unlike other nations where the nation is small, they have a common language, a common culture, and it's easy for them in their expressions. But India is a different type of nation. It's nation made for the people and made for people of various regions and various geography. So here, okay, before going into that part, since I am addressing the students, so I wish to give a small hint on what really architecture is all about. Architecture is just not a building to cater program needs, put in the requirements of the project and come out with a plan, elevation section, and try to impose some kind of an aesthetics and finish of the job. It has got much more. Otherwise, it's just a building. It's a design building you can call. You cannot call it an architecture. Architecture should have more meaning than just catering to the needs of the project. And architecture has been always viewed as an art form. Some people call it as the mother of art. And in this art form, see, we are blending several aspects into the project. So what could be blended? And all this has been exhibited in our historical buildings, historical architecture. So this is to blend, amalgamate, and articulate expressions of knowledge and wisdom. People's knowledge and wisdom have been wisely used in their projects. Ethos is the spirit of any culture, their art forms, their way of life, the craft forms they have practiced, and involvement of these craftsmen in making the buildings. It is just not buildings weren't in the past made by just one architect or designed the entire thing by one architect and executed by technical people. A lot of artists and craftsmen were involved in the projects. Environmental responsibilities is another aspect you will have to think and consider in your project. Science and technology, our development on the science and technological front. All has to somehow find a way in the expression of architecture. So then only you can consider this project as an architecture, or it will be just a design building, designed for a particular purpose alone. So with this understanding, let us go on. No, today's topic is to deal. No, I said I'll come back to that point. So this is a very broad nation. We have different types of geography across our vast nation. Different types of people, different types of practices, different cultures. So in the nation building, so architecture plays a very important role, because architecture, so the phase of any development or the value or the entire spirit of a nation is expressed through architecture. It will be easy if a nation is small and with one language, one culture, and so it will be easy to reflect and bring about that. But so India has a challenge. No, it has got various cultures and various geographical conditions. So, but we are not going to invent. We are not going to invent and bring about or to find out anything. Already, our masters have shown our way. Only if we can go and study more about them, we will have enough guidelines and enough information in continuing ahead in building up our nation. So the challenges I mentioned to you about the cultural and geographical as a nation. It's a part of the nature and the way we have come up and all the history and everything. So that we cannot change. It is existing. But of late, what I feel is that the architects, professionals, not all, but many are not following any principles. They are just ignoring responsibilities, rashness in design and execution. They fall for monotony. There is no imagination in the works they have done. Falling prey to grammar, ignoring pride, and a loss of identity, blindly embracing international styles and trends. So these are all the challenges. It is we have created, professionals have created, and it is the current situation now. But it wasn't the case soon after the independence. Even during the British rule, the buildings built were express high spirits in architecture. So they brought in technology from Britain and advanced science and technology from Britain, but they did not ignore the geography, the culture of the place, and everything. No? So standing examples are our Indo-Saracenic style of architecture. And all check. No, because of need, they wanted larger spans and bigger spaces. They went in for the architecture. They intelligently amalgamated their technology but without ignoring the craftsmanship, the culture, and the geographical conditions of India. So, but soon after independence, also there are our masters are there, Indian architects. Who had really understood the challenge and they showed the way. They have come out with a lot of projects, and and normally they are termed under critical regionalism. There, what they have attempted is they are not totally ignored international elements into their architecture, but they have very smartly amalgamated the local culture, the regional culture, the regional geography, everything. And also at the same time, they made sure they brought in that Indianness into their projects. So if you go and study their works, I'll name a few architects and the few Indian architects like Charles Correa, Raj Revel, Balakrishna Doshi, sought to overcome the dominance of all these international styles and set the ideal path for Indian architecture. Okay. Now when I talk about this critical regionalism is an approach in architecture that strives to counter the placelessness and lack of identity of the international style, but also rejects the whimsical individualism and ornamentation of postmodern architecture. So before this critical regionalism, there was this trend which was going on, postmodernism. People realized that so we cannot be carried away by technology and other things. Let us connect the history to the projects, and brought in this postmodernism. But postmodernism was literally what they tried to bring in, that ornamentation, and started implementing the aesthetic part of that to the projects. But it didn't have, it wasn't in depth. It didn't have the spirit. So it not only in India, across the globe, they felt this critical regionalism, that is incorporating the essence or the spirit of the region, spirit of the people, along with bringing in that nations, the oneness about a nation. All this they started, and this period was called, or this trend was called, as the critical regionalism. So if you check, even though Charles Correa, Balakrishna Doshi and all had their education in the West, their works of 1980s act as a model of critical regionalist architecture in India in the decades to follow. They set the trend, and it followed for quite some time. But all changed in the 90s. In the 90s, when there was liberalization in the Indian economy. Before that, the flow of buildings was quite less in numbers, and architects at the time, and architects also were less in numbers, but they were able to, through their experience, they were able to see to that the spirit of architecture, of Indian architecture, is not lost. But soon after this liberalization of economy, lots of buildings started flowing, and that's where that people without I don't know, they were not prepared, or they were ignorant of certain things, and started producing architecture which over the time has deteriorated, and now we see a lot of buildings, repetitive buildings, tasteless buildings, and bringing and copying this Western culture, covering all the buildings with glass and other things and all. So what is the problem here is, so the building, when you copy an international style, so the building doesn't, the self of belongingness is lost, and it doesn't, so it doesn't get along with the place, so it doesn't blend with the place. So it doesn't reflect the people's culture. So in the past and all, so they involved, as I said, I want to repeat this, they involved the people in making of the building, involve the people just not as a labor force, but they involve them as craftsmen. And now we talk about reviving craftsmanship in India and come out with hearts and projects dedicated to this craftsman community. But finally, we'll come up with some building which doesn't include their craftsmanship. So after talking about this, I would like to condense what really is this critical regionalism, and I will name you a few architects who are from the immediate past and who are all still practicing also, who still practice the true spirit of Indian architecture. If we follow that itself, I think that will be the best. Being architects, we can contribute for the nation building. Okay, then coming back to this essence of critical regionalism, or like checkpoints kind of a thing. Context-specific architecture. All these architects made sure they answered this question: does the design respect the character of the surroundings in which it is situated? So this is one point. Another point is historical knowledge. Does the architecture take into account the building's tradition of the region? The design should, however, incorporate historical knowledge only in its essence and should not resort to literal references or just replicate it. That is not needed, but the essence. You can learn a lot from history, but doesn't mean that you are what to say. You have to put your imagination aside and just copy what has been practiced in the past. Climate responsiveness. Does the architecture of the building respond self-evidently to the climatic conditions at the site where it is situated? The design should benefit from best solar orientations and should minimize the dependence on mechanical means such as air conditioning and artificial lighting for the functioning of the building. So nowadays, we ignore this and then take the dense urban setting, which has become almost congested, and we ignore all this. We don't maximize. We don't use daylighting and natural breeze. We're going for artificial lighting. We're going for air conditioners, and that is also what is taxing our sustainability is another thing which has been taxed. So this critical regionalism is also is the best answer for our sustainable concerns. If we follow this, then as being architects, we need not worry about addressing sustainability. Where the entire design, this system, this models, what our ancestors have left, will definitely be a right answer for our sustainable concerns. Climate responsiveness, I told you. Materiality. Does the project use locally available materials predominantly for the construction? When I use the locally available materials, it saves you much on your transportation, other things. Another advantage, the people, the local people were good craftsmen of the local materials. So when you bring in a foreign material or an industry-made materials into your project, then where is you have to ignore these people. You just need the laborers to execute the project. You don't need this craftsman. So material is not only and normally the materials what you find in the particular region is ideally suitable for the climatic conditions. This is how the earth is there. Even our food, what we know for our life, the food we got get in that particular region is meant to be a healthy food for that people of that region. Ecology and landscape. Does the project minimize the impact of its construction on the ecology of the site and surroundings? Social and cultural appropriateness. Does the architecture of the building respond to the social needs and lifestyle choices of its intended users? Technology. Does the design adapt modern technology in a sustainable way to benefit the building program? You can use, no harm in using modern technology. You can use, but it has to be used in a sustainable way. That shouldn't be the cause of a problem, and then we start addressing that. It's better to avoid. it's better to, it is not advisable to invite problems and find a solution. So some of these, when I'm talking about this political regionalism, some of the stalwarts I mentioned you, and I have not named the projects because I think that will extend and going into the project, how they were addressed and all will be very extensive one, which cannot be covered in this program. So I'll just name the architects alone. Charles Correa is a international award winner. Yes, won for his professional service. He's won an Aga Khan award for the international award for architecture. Joseph Allenstein, Achyut Kanvinde, Raj Revel, Laurie Baker. You will be familiar with Laurie Baker and the service to our poor people. Hashmukh Patel, Uttam Chand Jain, Balakrishna Doshi. He recently, last year, he was awarded the Fitzker Prize. That is also a prestigious award for architecture. Satnaman, Namita Singh, Satish Gujral, Shirish Berry, Christopher Benninger, Ashok Pilal, Rahul Mehrotra, Sanjay Puri, Sanjay Mohe, Chitra Vishwanath, Vimal Patel, and the list goes on. And still there are good architects who are still practicing that. See, coming almost to the end of my session, see, all these people have kept in mind, and made people inclusive. And I'm reminded of a quote made by the British politician Winston Churchill. We shape our buildings, and afterwards our building shapes us. So this is a quote I think we should keep in mind. And also there's another quote which I want to mention. I should have mentioned you earlier itself, but it's okay. I'm mentioning you to you now. The only justification for architecture as a profession is in providing better environments for the people. This better environments, even though it's a two-letter word, it has a world of reference, and it is unlimited. Better, you cannot say what is better. So, and this better can keep on increasing. And environments also. Environments is also so it can be your man-made environment, it can be a human environment, it can be a natural environment. So all this you'll have to consider and provide a ideal environment for humans. No? So with these two quotes, I would I'm concluding my speech, and I'll eagerly await for your questions. Okay, is there any questions which I can answer? Over to you, the moderator.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for this informative session. There are a few questions asked by the students. How important do you think our colonial past is to count as a national building, as a nation building?
It's just not the colonial past, or you can learn from anywhere. International projects, the projects from other countries, projects from colonial past and all. But we will have to be responsible. We will have to take the best out of that, and we will have to see how we can carry forward and make sure this will be the ideal approach, and we ensure we provide. Once again, I remind you that the ideal environments for our people.
Yes, sir. Another question is, you said that architects set a trend. So how did that trend help to overcome multiculturalism?
I didn't get your question. Can you repeat it?
Like, yes, sir. Like you had said, architects had set a trend over the last few years. So how did that trend or that style of architecture help to overcome multiculturalism?
Architecture have set several trends. but I don't know. Some can be bad trends and some can be good trends. All these architects, what I have mentioned here, they have set the good trend. They have kept up the spirit of architecture. They have kept the spirit of our nation, and also kept up the spirit of the people of various culture. So we'll have to choose. We'll have to choose and learn. No, it is trend. I see, every architect is expected to be creative and to be innovative, not to copy certain things and follow it. No. You can learn. See, for learning itself, you have to copy. So you don't come and invent everything from your birth. No. So many things are already existing. Languages are existing. Knowledges are existing. So many things are existing. But from that, what is that new thing, or what is that better thing you are going to contribute as an architect? That is what matters.
Okay. There's another question, sir. How does we design spaces that cater the sentiments and emotions of India? Like
See, that was the main topic of our thing. No, we don't have one sentiment or one this thing to follow that. So we are actually giving a different definition of a nation. So all other nations, or many of the nations, are small, and as I said, no, the sentiments, the culture is almost same. They follow the same language, so it'll be easy. But we have different sentiments. We have different what to say, culture. Different people think in different way. So we have to find a solution for that. This is the challenge now. But and we let accept that we cannot have one unified solution for this. So we are having, it's a vast country, and we have dispersed diverse range of people. So we have different solutions for that.
Yes, sir. So there's a quote saying that future of architecture is culture. What is your say on that?
Future of culture is a very dominant part of any architecture, and this culture only reflects in architecture to give an identity. Otherwise, the science and technology, or all whatever art and everything is common for the entire world. Okay, when you integrate all this into your buildings, so you are not giving any identity, but this culture, it varies. So this culture only, integrating and including this culture into your projects only gives you a identity, and identity is very important. So you cannot be just another person, one among the 1,000 or one among the lakhs or something. Everyone vies for an identity. You want to be somebody on this earth. Our architecture also in the same manner. It has to be something. It needs an identity.
Yes. Yes, sir. Another question is, I want to ask this question. Like in place like Qatar, there's a place called Katara where they have replicated Venice. So in India, is there any place like that where we have replicated some other place so that we can give the style and we can experience that type of architecture?
No, this is one point which I forgot to mention during my thing. So this question has given me an opportunity to touch that point. See, when we talk about many nations, we can learn from many nations and other things, but not all. Some what to say, all are all. The concept of a nation varies. It is not the same for all countries. See, some countries or some nations, they want to show off their supremacy, and that is very well reflected in their architecture also. And some places, they want to show off the wealth. So this Gulf countries, it's a typical example for that. There they want to show off whether it is needed or not. They'll come up with projects just for we have got the tallest building, and there is a race for that. When somebody comes up with them, they're trying to put another. Even among themselves, they have created race and going for taller structures. Okay, So it's a challenge to show that for the, for the structural designers and for all the technical people, it is an opportunity to showcase the talent and other things. But from an architect's angle, why you have to do something when there, you not see there's a difference between doing architecture for need and doing architecture for desire. For need, we can judge and we can do the right thing and we can consider so many other aspects. But we do for desire, usually we ignore the other aspects. We ignore environment, we ignore so many other factors, and we are driven by desires. So this part, what we are talking about, no. So okay, if you want to bring in water body, and so it's a dry area, bring in water bodies and other things and all. Why it has to be replicated as Venice? Why don't you bring in something what will reflect the culture of the people? I'll touch upon the history of these Arabs and all these things. They could have done that. So this is my opinion.
Yes, sir. What are the major challenges faced by architects right now to overcome multiculturalism?
Hey, that was what initially I told you. No, see, you have to, being an architect, you have to realize you have huge responsibilities.
Yes.
You have social responsibilities, environmental responsibilities, and you also have to learn from history, learn from your past. And the many architects, they have shown our way and all. We'll have to try to understand and all that. What I feel is that many of the contemporary architects, or you can call them as commercial architects, they ignore all these aspects. Probably they are driven just by economic advantages. They do the project just for the sake of getting money, and whatever the client demands or something, they rely on the glamour. And, so this type of a trend is not, I don't know, I don't blame the architects alone. The people are also of the blame, probably their education level, probably they don't realize the value of architecture. So some of things have to change. I just don't want to put the blame onto this. So this will be a huge challenge for architects. No? Even if there are some architects who are willing to follow the spirit of architecture, but you should be able to get a client who can understand you, understand your concerns, and fall in line with you. Otherwise, you cannot know. We are dependent on clients and other people, other developers, because they are going to invest and they are going to build. No, we are going only if they give you the work, we'll be able to do. Sometimes, no, so they will demand, and if you don't agree for their demands, I think they'll find an alternative, find another architect. They'll go. So these are all the challenges. Somehow you'll have to balance or take that extra effort to go and convince, educate the people. So usually I tell my colleagues or fellow architects, the IAA, other people, the upcoming architects and all. No. So why you keep always blaming the society for your thing and all? So if something is wrong in your house, who else other than you will be bothered and who will try to mend it? It's you. Okay, if the standard of architects is going low, then you will have to take the steps. You will have to take that extra mile, walk that extra mile to educate the people, make them understand. Probably, I don't know, you may not have immediate effect, but all understand that and see that there's a big hurdle. And I think only architects can address that. And so I made so many suggestions, like people spend a lot of time watching TV of programs. They get addicted to that, which has got no information. It's just, I don't know what kind of entertainment also. But as architect, why should we always depend on projects and doing projects or something? You can diversify into documenting the values of architecture, right? You can also, even those can be projected or they can be brought out as magazines, they can be projected as serials and other things and all. And that will be, definitely people will get interested into that instead of looking at stuff without any content. No, they spend time without any content. But if you have some content, definitely people will be interested. Slowly their minds will change. So that I think the architects have to realize and collectively take steps to educate the people.
So the last question for today. So what role do you think urban infrastructure and design play in establishing a national identity? Do you think a nation's identity and its public spaces are closely interlinked?
It's a long question. Can you please repeat it?
Yes, sir. Yes. So what role do you think urban infrastructure and design play in establishing a nation identity? Do you think a nation's identity and its public spaces are closely interlinked?
See, yeah, the linkage is there. It plays a role in the nation's identity, but there is a slight change. This has been right from the beginning. I've been emphasizing we cannot have one unique, one single identity. We have multiple identities. Northern part of India or this region, it has got an identity. Another region has got an identity. But collectively, we'll have to work out. That oneness, that Indianness, is also there. So this is what is binding us. So India's beauty is unity in diversity. So that if you try to achieve it through, as I told you, all these architects who don't study their projects, they don't just stop with addressing the concerns of the region alone or of that people alone. They have embraced nation Indianness into their project, and also they have brought in international. They have not ignored all the best of everything. They have tried to incorporate it. But unlike the olden projects, which ignored the people, which ignored the geography, which ignored the ethos of the people, art and cultural forms and other things, so they made sure they have brought that to forefront, but without ignoring all other aspects. They made a balance of that. So this is what I say.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We are done with the questions, sir.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ma'am, can we start with the next speaker?
Okay. Yes, let's move on to the second speaker. Sir, thank you so much for your informative talk, sir. It was very useful. I hope all the participants will definitely be, you have given some eye-opening talk to us, sir, about the identity and the culture. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Grace. Thanks for this opportunity. Thank you all for your patient hearing. Thank you. Hope it was worthwhile. Thank you.
It is, sir. It is.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. So our second speaker for today's session on the topic uses of online apps for correction and review is going to be A. Gajendran, Assistant Professor, School of Architecture and Interior Design. Interesting topics will be discussed by him, and he'll also guide us by how to correct our essays by using online apps. Before I hand over the session to the speaker, I request the participants to post their questions in the comment section. Welcome, sir. Over to you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Good afternoon, one and all. And good afternoon, all. For today's session, using our online app to correct and review the content. So I'll just share a screen on what we're going to look. You guys are able to see the screen?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is about an American writer called Ernest Hemingway. So he was very prevalent in the first half of the 19th century. He won his Pulitzer Award in the year 1953. This award is an international recognition for journalists and reporters. And in 1954, he won the Nobel Award for Literature. So his principles and writing styles are being followed very prevalently along the journalists and the reporters all throughout the world. He is a person who coined the term, the iceberg theory of writing, which means the submerged parts of the iceberg, how it tapers to the bottom of the ocean. So that's how a writing should be, where the important contents to be showcased at the top, the value-added contents to be the next, and the information supporting that to be that the tail. And his principles, he's got 4 golden rules on how a good writing can be made. They're the 4 laws of Hemingway's. That's what they call it. The first law, what they say is to keep the sentence short. He always believed in omitting unnecessary words. So it should be direct, it should be simple. The second law is keep the first para short, not anything more than 3 to 5 sentences at the max. So this way we captivate the audience and we can hold them till the end of the session. If you're not going to do that in the first para, then it's not going to work. The third rule is a vigorous language. What he says is a vigorous English, but we can interpret that into language for whatever language we are following. So how is that done? Because most of us, we use English as a second language, and it's not about only with reference to the word relation to English, but to any language in which we are reporting or we are documenting or we are showcasing. The way to do that is to read. You have to always do a rereading of the old content again multiple times. So what happens this way is we tend to eliminate the unnecessary content or probably pick up the unnecessary words and get a much more refined content. So this is the third law. The fourth law of Hemingway is always keep positive and not negative. So in some way, example is like, how do you frame your sentence in a positive quote, even if you want to say something negative? Rather than like saying something which is very expensive, you can say it's like economical. It's not economical. So put up terminologies that way. So with respect to this Ernest Hemingway's principle, so I'm going to introduce this web page editor called the Hemingway editor. So the address is for the page. Just a minute. This is a web page address, the hemingwayapp.com. This website is developed on basis of the principles of what Mr. Ernest Hemingway has done. And this is a free tool to be used on the web page edition. There is a desktop edition available for this in Mac as well as Windows. But for that, you need to pay a subscription fee. But whereas for any of us, like for writing a blog or to do a essay or to do a journal or to do a article writing, we can use this app. This is an online editing app. So I'll get into the page. You guys can make a note of the app page. You guys are able to see the screen, the Hemingway app?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. So this app, I'll just tell you the user interface of this app. So on to the right side, so you see a list of descriptions given here. So this whole part, the app and the content, whichever part I'm highlighting, is where we do our text editing, our text creation. And this is a very simple app. It's like on the right side, you have a introduction of it, and you have two options. I'll get into it. And what is the readability grade? As in, what is the grade in which our readability is recognized to? So as of now, see, as soon as you open up the app, the content what you find here is the default, and this kinds of gets you as a user interface introduction. Wherein, like someone who's new to the app, the whole point of giving them an exercise is this content. This is just an example content as a default whenever you log into the page. So the readability grade, it's like the current context, what has been already displayed, is got grade 6 and it says good. So depending on the readability, there are various parameters in which the readability is judged through the app itself. So as we progress, the better the readability grade comes in, as in like the lower. You come into a 5, 4, 3, 2, it comes into your achievement as great. So that's how your recognition is gauged here. And the number of words, yeah, this a lot of writing tools does. It gives you number of words as 133. And show more, this is quite an information. This gives you the reading time. What is the reading time of the content? The number of letters, characters, number of sentences, and paras. And the important part of this page is this content. On the bottom, the multicolored tags. So here you have adverbs which are being in blue, the passive voice in green, simpler alternative phrase in pink, hard to read sentence in yellow, and very hard to read in a reddish tone. So these are the clues, these are highlights. These things are all represented here in this content, what you see. As in, we'll start off from the first. This has been given as a yellowish tone. So this 1 out of the 11 sentences is hard to read. So that is this particular sentence. The app highlights lengthy, complex sentence and common errors. If you see a yellow sentence, shorten or split it. So whatever contents are given here is kind of an introduction and narration to how to go about this app. Okay, how to do the troubleshooting. The troubleshooting is, so this particular sentence with the semicolons, it's not very hard, but it's hard to read. So the way to, again, with whatever principles as Ernest Hemingway has mentioned, what can be done here is, we have to split the sentence to make it simpler. So what you do is, the app highlights lengthy, complex sentence and common errors. So I'll just cut it out, make it dot, full stop, and give it a period, and then start it off. So now you see, we got rid of this yellow shade marking. And here, 0 out of 12 sentences are hard to read. Solve one. And next we go to a simpler one. 2 adverbs. We'll start off with the blue tag. So 2 adverbs are mentioned, meeting the goal of 2 or fewer. So which means a goal of 2. 2 adverbs are still fine in this content, or it can be fewer, or you can totally omit it. So it's again up to us on we take a call. Shall we leave it as 2? Or can we bring down one of them? Or we can totally remove them. So before going on to this, and I'll give you an explanation on that, what a adverb is. And the next one is one which is marked in green. The phrases in green have been marked to show passive voice. Being marked. This is a passive voice. So 1 out of 1 use of passive voice. The meeting of the goal, the meeting of the goal of 2 or fewer is still fine. So I'll quickly give you what exactly these contents are. I'll just share a screen on that. You all are able to see this definitions given here in this page?
Yes, sir.
The adverb. So what is an adverb? A word or phrase that modifies or qualifies as an adjective, verb, or other adverbs or a word group. Expressing expressing a relation of place, time, circumstance, manner, cause, degree. That's the examples. They have given few words. So these are the words in which whatever we give as an add-on, something like a very pleasant weather. Pleasant is always mentioned, but a very pleasant is an adverb. And next we go on to see what are the passive voices. A set of forms of a verb in which the subject undergoes the action of the verb. As in, like, the subject is first put and then the verb comes the next. So the example is, they were killed is the sentence. So they is the subject and killed as a verb. So this makes it a passive voice. Whereas in a sentence, if it's like mentioned as killed them, wherein the verb comes the first and the subject comes the second, that becomes the active. So this is a reference to what we are going to look into in our content preparation on what we can omit. So I'll get back into the web page. So I'm back to the web page here. So we'll start off with the first part. So again, we'll take a note of what is the readability grade here. Readability grade is 6, which is good. So we'll see what is the progress we go on and what happens to this readability grade. Adverbs and weakening phrases are helpfully shown in blue. So this could be put as adverbs and weakening phrase. If you can take a tag here, a use of a forceful verb, you can omit. Adverbs and weakening phrase are helpfully shown in blue, which can be again rephrased as adverbs and weakening phrases are shown in blue. So do you see what has happened here? Now we sorted out one problem of removing an adverb, which is again our own call of it. As in, like, it's like it is still suggested that we can still have 2 of them, but yeah, we want to remove it. That's fine. But now again, a next warning comes in. A use of an action voice, a passive voice is recognized here. So be done here. Adverbs and weakening phrases are shown in blue. Whereas I can still make it direct by just taking off shown. Adverbs and weakening phrases are in blue. So now we have omitted that passive voice also. Done? And do you see what has happened here because of this? Our readability credit has gone to grade 5. From where grade 6, it has come down to grade 5, as long as we are going to sort out each of the problems. So which means the content is much more refined, much more simpler, and much more easy to grab. So let's sort out the remaining issues. Get rid of them and pick words with a force, perhaps. The perhaps is a adverb. So the simple way to do this, if it's necessary, we can use it. If it's not necessary, we can remove it. Getting rid of them and pick words with force. That's good enough. It's our decision whether we need to use it or not use it. It's totally about us. You can see the number of words have come down. We can still expand our content by giving some new information rather than using extra words to narrate a simple content. So that is the whole point of this exercise. Now we'll come into the next passive voice. The phrases in green have been marked to show passive voice. Being marked to show is the passive content. So what can be done? Phrases in green have been marked to show passive voice. So I can omit it. The phrases in green have to show passive voice. That is not what we are trying to deliver, because it totally changes the sentence. Whereas I can replace this content of have. The phrases in green are to show passive voice. And now what has happened? We have removed it. So there are no adverbs. Well done. There's a credit we got. Use of passive voice. Nice work, because we have removed all of the content. And what else we have? We have one phrase as a simpler alternative. which means we have used a word which has got much more simpler word to represent the same word. So what is it? You can utilize a shorter word in place of a purple one. You can hover over it. It gives you a suggestion already by itself. Even we don't need to think about it. Replace or omit, use this particular word, which is use. You can use, I'll just click on that. So you can use a shorter word in place of a purple one. So with this, we have troubleshooted almost 1, 2, 3, 4 points of it. And now we have another one point, which is the toughest part, is the sentence which is very hard to read. Why is it very hard to read? Because it doesn't have its periods, as in like the sentence doesn't break on intervals. It's got a continuation with commas and hyphens. So what can be done to sort it out? So let's read the sentence once and then we'll see what can be done. If you see a red highlight, your sentence is so dense and complicated that your readers will get lost trying to follow this meandering, splitting logic. Try editing this sentence to remove the red. So what exactly they're trying to say is, because the sentence is too dense and it's long, we have to troubleshoot it and make it much more simpler. So how do I split this sentence? If you see a red highlight, your sentence is so dense and complicated, and that your readers. So this part, the complicated and that your readers, is a continuation. So what I'm trying to do is I'm going to bring a break here. If you see a red highlight, your sentence is so dense and complicated, I give a period, stop, and then I sort it. So I just stop, I just make it into one sentence. And the next part is that your readers will get lost trying to follow in meandering and splitting logic. Again, starting with the word that, it doesn't make sense. So we can omit the word. Now how to, and I can make it. Your readers will get lost trying to follow its meandering and splitting logic. Try editing it. Again, these are two contents put in here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to give a period here, break it up. And obviously I can't leave a comma in between here. So I'm going to add. And so this way, your readers will get lost. Can I read one more from the top? If you see a red highlight, your sentence is so dense and complicated. Your readers will get lost trying to follow its meandering and splitting logic. Now, with the hyphen, again, we can't start with the hyphen. So we have to do something else. Again, try won't be working. So I'll remove that. Editing to the sentence to remove the red. Again, this without the earlier context doesn't sound to do with the editing. So I remove the ing. Edit this sentence to remove the red. Rather, I can say edit the sentence to remove the red. So this way, I've refined all my content and I've troubleshoot all my issues which are pointed here. And now, what do we get from the analysis? A grade 4. From where the grade 6, we are coming to a grade 4. And we have got a good as a recognition. So this is how this whole content works. And again, one note which I want to bring to you guys is, with the initial page, as in like it was said as 2 is allowable, 4 is allowable, whatever. The allowable content keeps on changing as your description gets longer. So for this much of text, what we have in the screen, the earlier mentioned was 2 is still good to go. By the time, if at all your words still double up the page, your allowance for adverbs or passive voice still increases. So this is the whole content of this website. This is quite a useful app. It's free. And this can deliver the content to the point, gets our sentences to a much more simpler terms, easy to get attention from anyone, and a very useful tool for us when we are doing our essays, which are quite long and narrative, and this can streamline it a lot. So this is all about this particular app. And yeah, I think there are quite a few other apps also available, but the one which I found, it's free. It's got a good guidance and good simpler user interface is this one. So I highly recommend to use this app to streamline your content. If at all you are familiar with other apps, yeah, you can still follow them. So yeah, so this is my presentation. Is like, you guys have any questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for this informative session and highly useful session. There are a few questions posted.
Yeah.
For a good content and delivery preparation, is it really necessary to sort out the highlights pointed out by the app?
Okay, that's not necessary. Again, see, as we being the author for the content, we still hold our decisions whether it's really necessary or not necessary. So the app by itself gives you a few allowance of whether 2 is allowed or lesser is still fine. So we can take an ultimate call whether that content is necessary or not. That's in case of few particular warnings like a passive voice and adverbs are using a simpler words. But in the case of a very hard to read sentence, I think it should be really looked into. Those warnings should be taken into serious and sorted out. How to make it simpler. The rest of all, it's all up to us whether we need to go with it or not. This again, all of this is a guideline. You really don't need to stick to the rules, but this can help us sort things out. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
Any app suggestions for checking plagiarism?
There are a lot of apps for plagiarism, but the only problem with plagiarism is in what kind of source your plagiarism app plays around. Example, plagiarism apps, depending on the vendor, who the creator of the app, few apps will look into scientific journals alone. And few apps which is comes into for website content also. So I myself, I'm really not familiar. Wherein when we do a research content, there are few research-oriented plagiarism websites that looks into that content. But as for a creative writing, I'm really not sure to help you out with that. But there should be something available. Again, with the plagiarism rule, I can help you out with one rule. Plagiarism, yeah, the reason to is we don't want to exactly use someone else's content or someone else's created content. We can still interpret and infer the meaning of that content and give a different explanation, which again would be detected by the plagiarism apps, which will say like a 10% recognition, which is still all right. A 10% of a plagiarism tolerance. Anything beyond that, I still suggest no. I think we should really take that content out and find original content. Do original content. Yeah.
Yeah. The last question is, you had mentioned the cons for using the app for content creation. Can you please mention them?
Yes, yes. This particular, okay, I'll just get onto the page again. So it means, okay, this particular page, this is a editor. Rather like we can create our own content. I can click on all the content, remove them, and I can start writing on this is to be. We can start doing this. The problem here is, as we said about all these parameters which are mentioned onto the right side of the screen, as we progress writing, there's going to be always a scrutiny on the sentence. At times, we might tend to lose our attention on our content because we keep getting these color shades popping out between our sentences. We might not really have that flow to deliver the content what we really need. So that way, it is suggested that not to use this app for content creating directly by itself. Rather, we can do it in another app where we do a content writing, and we can copy that content and paste it here. We can do that, and then we can scrutinize what the issues are, which is still fine. And the important, again, the one biggest reason why we shouldn't be using this for content writing is this doesn't have any save option in this, unlike a Word. So whatever you imagine, you have power shutter, you have some issues, your computer, it goes down, the content gets lost. So this doesn't have a save option in it. So always suggested do it on another content creating platform and bring this here.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for this session. Thank you for this informative app and whatever you got to learn today. Now I hand it over to Grace, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. It was actually a new app for all of us, not only for this particular competition, but it will be very useful for all our future endeavors. And we really get to know the details of the app. That was very, thank you so much for that, that thing, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, so we are here at the end of our session. So we had two speakers. Our first speaker spoke to us about the critical regionalism, culture, and identity. And our second speaker, he taught us the modern version of how to write or how to correct an essay using online labs. I hope it was very useful for all of you. I myself, it is very useful for me. So I hope it would have been a great session for all of us. And thank you, participants, for being a wonderful participation. Thank you, moderator. Thank you, technical team. And thank you, Dean Sir, for this opportunity. So we'll meet tomorrow with day 3 of Word Connect session. Thank you all. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Vayapuri, sir.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
Thank you, Grace.
Thank you, Praveen.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Gajendra. It was a wonderful session.
Yes.
It was very informative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.